Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for day 13 of my 20 days 20 cards tutorial series. Today we're going to create a more traditional coloured Christmas card, and to start with we've got an old olive card base which I'm just going to fold in half, and then we're going to stamp a watermark background in old olive ink with the music notes. This is the Stampin' Around wheel, which I've taken off the wheel and mounted as a regular stamp. So I'm just going to ink that up with old olive ink. And we're going to stamp that all the way down the card front. So once you've done that, you'll notice that I've got a gap here where I haven't stamped the music notes. That's because I've got a sentiment strip which will be covering that part, so I didn't need to stamp that area. So you can set aside your card front, and then we're going to take a Riding Hood red rectangle, and that fits the width of our card front. It's the same width. And we're going to scallop the top and bottom edges with the scallop trim border punch. Okay, then we've got a strip of very vanilla cardstock, and it is 2 inches wide and the same width as the card front, and we're going to stamp onto that using the Joy sentiment from the Welcome Christmas stamp set. So to start with, we will ink that up with Riding Hood red ink. And I wanted to have a two-toned sentiment, so if I had a wood mounted stamp I'd use the rock and roll technique to get some old olive ink just on the outer edges of the Joy sentiment, but because mine is in a clear mount and my block's a little bit too big to do rock and roll, I'm just going to take a sponge dauber with some old olive ink on it, and I'm just going to ink up the edges of the stamp that way. So I'm just using the sponge dauber direct to the rubber. Okay, so once you've done that, just give it a huff to re-moisten the ink, and then just stamp that down onto the Very Vanilla, around about in the centre, probably just slightly up from the centre of the cardstock. And then that's ready to mount onto our Riding Hood red strip. So we'll do that with some snail adhesive. And we're going to mount that onto the Riding Hood red. Okay, and you'll notice that I've mounted that higher towards the top than the bottom, and that's because I'm going to take some of our promotional old olive ribbon. This is from the Mistletoe Ribbon Originals, and it's the old olive taffeta with the vanilla trim, and we're going to tie that in a bow around the bottom of that Riding Hood red strip. And when I'm halfway through the bow, I'm going to pop some linen thread across the centre so that I can attach a button once the bow is tied. And there you have it, our card for day 13 complete. Thanks for joining me for 20 days 20 cards tutorial series. Don't forget to stop by my website stampwithwendy.com.au to check out today's project bundle, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.